It is the early hours of the morning. Within the dimly lit corridors of the Führer bunker, German officers are arriving one after another, breathless and wide-eyed, clutching dispatches stamped with the Iron Eagle. The hushed tension is almost suffocating. For weeks, the upper echelons had relied on the Rhine as the final natural barrier, a bulwark of defense that, they believed, could not be breached in haste. Everyone, from field officers to senior commanders, assumed any Allied crossing would take days, perhaps even weeks. Then suddenly, the first telegram. An officer bursts through the heavy wooden door of the map room, his voice trembling. "Herr Führer, the Allies have crossed. They reached the eastern bank less than 24 hours ago." Others follow, bearing grim-faced urgency, each report more unbelievable than the last. The river, once thought a natural fortress, has been erased in hours. Down in the inner chamber, Adolf Hitler sits at the large table, flanked by high-ranking officers and his closest aides. As the first report hits the table, his face loses its usual pall of severity. For a fleeting moment, there is stunned silence, then a bark of disbelief. "That cannot be," he demands, voice rising in anger and confusion. "Must be propaganda, enemy deception." He slams a gloved hand on the table, sending pens and maps skittering. "Check the coordinates. Verify the fronts. No one is to spread rumors of Rhine being lost." Officers scramble, flipping through maps, rechecking radio logs, pouring through reconnaissance photos. The tension builds into a palpable thickness. Hitler paces, eyes darting between the grim faces of his generals. He refuses to accept the reports, but his denial lacks conviction. The officers, though loyal, exchange worried glances. The speed of the crossing, the scale of Allied forces, the disarray of German units, the facts keep repeating, stubborn and undeniable. In that moment, the bunker trembles not from bombs or shells, but from shock. The unthinkable has happened. The supposedly secure Rhine, the symbol of Germany's last hope, has been shattered in the span of a day. And with that, the war has taken a turn. The atmosphere inside the Führer bunker tightens as senior commanders gather around the central map table, the air thick with cigarette smoke and anxiety. Moments earlier, they had received confirmation from multiple fronts. The Allies had crossed the Rhine in force, not just in one sector, but in several. As the generals prepare to relay the full situation, they brace themselves. They know the reaction will be explosive. Hitler strides into the room, boots striking sharply against the concrete floor. His eyes sweep across the faces of his commanders, searching for hesitation, weakness, or any sign of dissent. When General Krebs steps forward with the morning briefing folder, Hitler snatches it abruptly, flipping through the pages. He pauses, reading the lines that confirm the breakthrough. His jaw tightens. "What is this?" His voice rises sharply. "You assured me the Rhine would hold. You promised the defenses were secured." The room freezes. No one dares interrupt as he slams the folder onto the table, scattering paper across the maps. "A crossing in 24 hours. Impossible. You have failed your duty." Several officers attempt to explain. Divisions depleted, fuel shortages, overwhelming Allied air power. The crossings were not due to cowardice, but because German forces were simply stretched beyond their limits. But Hitler cuts them off, pacing furiously. "This is sabotage," he declares. Sabotage or incompetence. His accusations fall like hammer blows. He demands immediate counterattacks, orders that everyone in the room knows are unrealistic. Units he names have been reduced to a fraction of their strength. Some exist only on paper. Yet no one contradicts him. They nod, salute, and note the commands, though they know they cannot be executed. The divide between Hitler's expectations and battlefield reality has never been more obvious. For the officers, this outburst is not merely anger, it is a sign that the war's strategic center is collapsing from within. The map room grows quieter as the shock settles. Large operational maps stretch across the walls, pinned with colored markers representing divisions that, only weeks earlier, had been confidently placed to guard the Rhine. Now many of those markers are meaningless. The units have been pushed back, scattered, or cut off entirely. Hitler stands rigidly before the largest map, staring so intensely it seems as if he could will the Allied arrows to retreat. General Jodl approaches with updated intelligence documents, his expression carefully neutral. "My Führer, our reconnaissance confirms rapid enemy buildup across the river. Armor, infantry, bridging units, their momentum is increasing." Hitler snatches the report without turning. His eyes skim the lines, and his face tightens. "No," he mutters. "This is not due to enemy strength. It is internal weakness, treachery." His voice grows louder. If the officers on the Western Front had held firm, this breakthrough never would have happened. The commanders exchange uneasy looks. They've heard this before. The constant accusations, the refusal to acknowledge logistical collapse, the belief that victory depended only on willpower. But this time feels different. The scale of the Rhine crossing is too large, too decisive. Hitler jabs at the map with a trembling finger. Here, this division was supposed to hold the left bank. And here, the armored reserve should have counterattacked immediately. His tone mixes frustration and disbelief, as if the map itself has betrayed him. General Bergdorf quietly tries to clarify. Fuel convoys were destroyed by Allied aircraft, bridges had been blown too early, reinforcements never arrived because the roads were blocked with refugees. But Hitler waves him off, refusing explanations. It is incompetence, he insists. Cowardice. A failure of loyalty. In that moment, the room realizes the truth. The defensive plan hasn't just collapsed on the battlefield, it has collapsed in Hitler's mind as well. His inability to accept reality leaves the high command powerless, watching the war slip beyond their control. The bunker's map lamps cast a pale glow over the table as Hitler abruptly calls for a new briefing. His commanders gather again, exhausted but alert, knowing this meeting will shape the next desperate phase of the war. Hitler stands at the center, stiff-backed, gripping a pencil so tightly it nearly snaps. No one speaks until he does. "We will restore the situation," he declares, voice sharp and brittle. "Fresh divisions must be brought to the Rhine. Armor from the Central Reserves will launch an immediate counterattack." His tone leaves no room for debate, but the officers exchange troubled glances. The reserves, he mentions, exist only in theory. Most have been lost, depleted, or immobilized by lack of fuel. General Wenck clears his throat carefully. "My Führer, the units you're referring to, they are not in operational condition. Many are down to a few vehicles, and we..." Hitler cuts him off, eyes flashing. "Then rebuild them, reform the divisions at once. Every man capable of holding a rifle must be sent to the west." The room falls silent. Everyone knows Germany no longer has the manpower to form new, effective units. Many soldiers are already teenagers or older men pressed into service. Supplies are dwindling, communication lines are fractured, and Allied air superiority makes movement nearly impossible. But Hitler insists on plans that disregard all these realities. He orders non-existent battalions to assemble, commands shattered regiments to launch coordinated strikes, and demands reinforcements from regions that are themselves barely holding on. His directives come faster than the officers can write them down. General Krebs finally ventures a cautious remark. "My Führer, even if these formations are assembled, they cannot reach the front without fuel." Hitler waves the concern aside. "Fuel will be found. What matters is willpower." The commanders know the truth. Willpower cannot replace tanks, ammunition, or the men already lost. Yet none dare oppose him. As the meeting ends, the weight of impossible orders hangs over them, a stark reminder of how disconnected their leader has become from the battlefield, and how far the war has slipped beyond saving. The bunker has grown unnervingly still. Hours of frantic briefings and raised voices have faded into a heavy quiet. Outside, distant rumbles from artillery echo faintly through the concrete, but the command staff barely reacts. All attention remains fixed on the man standing before the wall-sized map of Western Europe. Hitler is no longer pacing or shouting. Instead, he stands frozen, one hand resting on the edge of the table, eyes locked on the long blue line of the Rhine. The line that had once symbolized Germany's last major natural barrier, now broken in multiple places. Allied arrows push deeper inland, widening by the hour. Aides move cautiously around him, placing updated reports on the table but not daring to speak unless asked. They exchange worried looks. This quiet is unfamiliar, and in some ways more unsettling than his earlier anger. It signals something deeper, not surrender, but a recognition he cannot admit aloud. General Jodl steps forward softly. "My Führer, new information from the western sectors." He lays a brief report on the table. Hitler doesn't respond at first. After a long pause, he picks it up and reads silently. His shoulders stiffen. There are no accusations this time, no sudden commands. Just a long exhale, controlled but heavy. For the first time, his inner circle senses that he understands the scale of what has happened. The Rhine crossing in 24 hours wasn't a minor setback, it was a turning point. A symbol that the war, as he envisioned it, can no longer be won. He lowers the report slowly and looks back at the map, eyes unfocused. The officers watch in uneasy silence. This moment, the quiet, the stillness, the lack of denial, speaks louder than any outburst. No declaration is made, no orders are rescinded, no admissions spoken. But everyone present feels it. Hitler knows the tide has turned irreversibly. And for the first time, his staff sees not a leader in control, but a man realizing the end is closing in.